You're about to be 30. What the hell are you doing? Hey, you've been single for a while. It's time for you to date. I was out here having a good old time. Some people probably would have been calling me some of the things that they calling Meg right now. And of course, now I'm in this relationship with this man that I barely even know. But desperation and delusion is a deadly combination. There's a lot of us out here that had to make decisions out of survival mode. But when you add the delusion to it, you change the whole story. Now, I know there's some people out there that are saying, I've never been desperate before. But just hear me out. Hear me out. Desperation isn't always just applied to relationships. It's not just applied to people. You can be desperate for anything. People will make horrible decisions when they are desperate. Think about when you're on your diet, when you didn't pack your lunch, when you don't know what to eat. You are desperate for food because you are starving. And the next thing you know, you find yourself in a drive-through, something that you did not want to do because you know it's going to throw your whole week off. A lot of times when people are desperate for money, do you think people are out here literally just starting to commit crimes because they feel like it's fun? No, they feel like they have to do this because I need my rent to get paid. My kids need something to eat. I need to put food on the table, and I completely get it. But this is where things go way left. When you add delusion to your desperation, because when you add the delusion, you start to tell yourself that this bad thing is not a bad thing. And you will find yourself getting comfortable there because you really feel like this is a good space to be in, because you have tricked yourself and told yourself, it's not as bad as it seems. He's not as bad as it seems. Well, I only ate out 3 times this week because usually I eat out like 5 or 6 times. We are going to shift into relationships because relationships are like one of the biggest parts of our lives, not just romantic relationships, but relationships in general. A lot of times we are desperate for love. We are desperate for attention. We are desperate for support. We are desperate for company. And you will lie to yourself and trick yourself into believing that the company that you're keeping, they are good people because you don't want to be alone. I've done this in my relationships. I'm not even gonna lie. Literally, I needed somewhere to stay when I was in my relationship years ago. And in order for me to stay there, I tricked myself into saying, you know what? I need somewhere to stay. We're gonna make this work. This relationship really isn't that bad. So you start telling yourself, you lose sight of the goal when you add the delusion to it. The way I would have wanted to handle that is to tell myself, hey, listen, we need somewhere to stay. I need somewhere to stay, not we. I need somewhere to stay. So girl, you're going to do what you got to do. But while you're here, you're going to be creating an exit plan. We're not getting comfortable here. We're not getting comfortable here. It's not going to be no lovey, kissy, huggy, all that stuff. We're going to do just enough to get by while we stack our money so we can get the hell up out of here. But when you start being delusional, that's when you start back sleeping with them. That's when you start back going on dates with them. That's when you end up having the, I can't believe there's 2 lines on the stick moment. That's when you get caught up in that. And that's when people end up having kids and it's like, I didn't even like him. I was done with him. I knew it should have been over. And it's like, yeah, it's clicking now because the consequences are starting to set in due to your delusion. And unfortunately, this happens a lot in DV situations, aside from you just not knowing how to get out, aside from you just being too afraid to leave. A lot of times people will leave and they'll go back because they have fed into not only the delusion that they've told themselves, but the delusion that the other party has told them. I've been in relationships where I broke up with someone and I have begged them to get help. You need to go talk to a therapist. You need to go do something. You need to pray more. And then you break up with them and then they come back and now all of a sudden that you left them, they've been seeing a therapist. Now all of a sudden that you left them, they have reconnected with God. And it's like, really? But sometimes we can be so delusional because we do want them to do better. We can't imagine them not wanting to do better for us. It's like, oh my God, they're showing up and doing this for me, which also is another layer of more issues that I can't even dive into because, for one, I'm not a mental health professional. This is only based on my experience and experiences I've witnessed of other people. But when you are desperate, when you're desperate, you can find yourself in some very questionable situations. Nothing shifts us more than the person that we trust to come into our lives and be our partner. Nothing shifts us more than the person that we share a home, a bed, a life with on a daily basis. And I know we love to pretend like, well, no, nobody really controls me like that. Anybody that you allow to be in your space consistently, there's going to be some type of an influence on you. And I want us to stay ahead of the game. So we're going to shift a little bit more. I've been single for 5 years. I have loved my journey because I've learned so many things about myself. I have gotten to know myself and I have grown so much. And one of the things that I really did want to focus on is making sure I never feel so deprived that I'm willing to settle. And that was something that I had to work on within me. I went to therapy, but therapy can only help you with the things that you're actually willing to share. So I had to do some really, really deep drilling to pull back up all of the pieces of myself and of my past and of my pain that I buried so deep because I didn't want to deal with it. I had to pull those things up so that I can face them. And it's a really uncomfortable feeling. And you're going to maybe go through a lot of moods. You're going to feel a whole lot of things. But you have to do this so that you can be proactive. Prior to me being single for 5 years, I was single for about 3 years. But while I was single for those 3 years, I was not doing the work. I was not doing any work. I was out here having a good old time. Some people probably would have been calling me some of the things that they calling Meg right now because your girl was outside and I was having fun. I was living my life and doing all the things, okay? But I wasn't doing the work. And it got to a point to where I did start to feel lonely. I started to feel lonely. And then I started telling myself, you know what, Jess, like, you've been single long enough. Like, girl, you should be good. You'll be good to jump out there in the water. And I started to feel, because even though you're out here having fun with these people, let's just be for real. They're taking up space physically, but they're not really taking up space. Like, they're not filling up those empty pockets in your heart that yearn for connection, that yearn for love. It's just a physical thing. And when all of that is gone and you're left home alone, you want to be loved on. That's just what it is. And I'm not saying that being alone means being lonely, because I didn't have lonely moments every night. But it's like when the stars just line up, when things combine, it's just like you can have all of these ingredients and separately, but once they come together, they create an explosion. And that's basically like what it was. It was just like the perfect timing of me thinking to myself, like, hey, you've been single for a while. It's time for you to date. And also the lonely feelings hitting at the same time. And what does that create? That now creates this pressure for me to get out there, this pressure for me to start dating, this pressure for me to, get into a relationship. Because also, while those two pieces are coming together, the piece of me turning 30 also came together. So now I have the realization that I've been single for quite some time, and the realization that I'm starting to feel a tad bit lonely, and then the realization of, girl, you're about to be 30. What the hell are you doing? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to have kids? Do you want all these things? I feel like the algorithm be all up in your head, all up in your mind, because you start thinking these things, and I start getting on social media, and I'm starting to see families, I'm starting to see vacations, I'm starting to see all the things that all of a sudden now that I want, and I feel the pressure to like hurry up and get it done. So what ends up happening, I move back to Georgia, and in my mind I'm like, okay, cool, I'm getting my new start. I'm starting my business. I'm going into entrepreneurship. Like, this is like the perfect setup. Like, I'm moving back and I'm starting anew. And it's like, this is the perfect time. So I meet somebody. We date a little bit. I actually met him while I was visiting back and forth to Georgia, trying to find a spot. And so we started talking long distance. And then basically when I moved here, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, time isn't moving backwards. What are you waiting for? So I instantly, like, we just commit to each other. We end up being in a relationship. Things move really, really, really quickly. And of course, now I'm in this relationship with this man that I barely even know. But I feel desperate. Why do I feel desperate? I feel desperate because I just turned 30. I feel desperate because I don't have any kids. I don't have a family, and I'm feeling lonely. And now, because I want these things so badly, the delusion was sprinkled on top. So now I'm telling myself, maybe I'm just set in my ways. Maybe he's not the problem. Maybe I'm not being understanding enough. Maybe I maybe myself into a trauma I never experienced before. I thought I dealt with all of the issues that I could have ever dealt with the man. And then he came along. And when I tell you, he took me for a ride. And once I got out of that relationship, that is when I really started doing the work. And so, yes, I've been single for 5 years, but trust me, it has been very intentional. I have not been outside. I have been working on myself. And it's not to say that you can't have fun and work on yourself, but let's just be for real. We tend to use men as a distraction. They are a really good distraction because they don't mind being your distraction. So I try to push that away and not let men be a distraction because I knew I had to do work on myself. So now at this age, I'm not going to allow myself to feel desperate. So this is why I really wanted to talk about this, because there's a lot of women out there that's especially around my age range, 30 to 40. You know, you've felt like you fell in love, fell out of love. You've been heartbroken, you've healed, or you're working on healing, whatever the case may be. And you feel like, you know what? Relationships aren't for me. I don't need love. I don't want love anymore. I'm good being by myself. But I'm here to tell you, you don't know what's on the other side. And I'd much rather for you to be prepared than for you to be at that crossroad of your desperate moment and you end up making a decision that can be so detrimental to you. So I want to encourage you to be proactive. Even if you don't feel like you will ever get into another relationship again, do the work for you. Work on yourself. Work on your healing journey. If you don't want to be in a relationship and there's some bitterness behind that, that means that there's some work to do. And there's no shame in it. We all have work to do. I mean, none of us are perfect, but I do want to make sure that if you're ever in that position, that the desperation does not set in on you, and that you're not so desperate that you're willing to sprinkle a little bit delusion on it just so you can finally feel like you're getting the life that you want and the life that you deserve. Because trust me, the things that's going to lie on the other side of that is not anything close to what you deserve. I know it sounds really trendy to say you don't want anybody, you don't need anybody, and you may feel like that today, but 5 or 10 years from now, you don't know how you're going to feel. And the pressure that you felt when you were turning 30, when you were turning 40, imagine what that pressure is going to feel like if that sets in at 50, if that sets in at 60. That's how you end up being a cougar out here paying people for attention because you're so desperate for it. And you want to make sure that not only are they going to give you the attention, they're going to show up consistently, and you want that by any means, even if you have to pay for the person's time. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for any of us. I want us to never lose track of what it is that we deserve and what it is that we require. Because the moment you lose track of that is when you can find yourself settling. So before I leave, I want to leave you with this. Be honest with yourself. Where are you emotionally? Where are you mentally? Where are you physically? And where you are today, would you be okay with being in that same space 10 years from now? If your answer is no, then sis, we got work to do. Because we want to be prepared for whenever we do get to that moment. We don't want to be caught lacking. We don't want to have to pull into the drive-thru. We don't want to have to settle for less. We don't want to have to negotiate our requirements, not preferences, requirements. Because when you know what you deserve, when you know that you deserve what you require, there is no settling. Settling is never an option. And at that moment, you would much rather be with yourself than settle for someone that does not know your value, that does not appreciate you, and that does not show up for you the way that you show up for them and the way that you show up for you. You don't bring people into your life that's gonna give less energy than you give to you. What are we becoming partners for? What are you bringing to me? Because if they're only bringing problems, eventually they're going to be your problem. And you don't need any problems. We're working on building, growing, and loving. That is all we need. So moving forward, I want you to never forget that the road does not have to be clear in order for you to have clarity. I'm your girl Jess, and this is Her Clarity Space. I will see you guys next week.